Hello scrappers, welcome back to my channel. Now a while back I released a video about how I built an impact mill using a vibratory tumbler and some ball bearings. And I'll tell you what, that impact mill works really well. This is a comparison right here of the kind of grind I get using my blender when I chew up incinerated IC chips. And you can see how coarse that is. This is the grind I get with the impact mill. Everything here went through a 30 mesh screen before it was processed. This stuff would be lucky to go through a 20 mesh screen. So I'm getting a much finer grind with the impact mill than I was getting with the blender. And I think the finer grind helps liberate more gold. So that's a beautiful thing. But I think there's room for improvement. This is still a little coarser than I would like. So I'm working on some improvements to my improvised impact mill to make it produce an even finer grind. And I'll give you a quick look at that. So here it is. Here's the old Harbor Freight vibratory tumbler. Get the lid off. I'll show you what I've done. Okay, in addition, I had 40 of these 1-inch steel ball bearings in here. Well, I have added to that. So we're up to 60 1-inch ball bearings. And somebody in the comments on that video I released said, hey, you should have different size ball bearings in there. And I thought, hey, that sounds like a good idea. So I've got 75 half-inch ball bearings in there now too. And we'll see how this does. If this improves the grind, makes it finer. I'm also going to time the length of time the stuff is in here. I'm going to run it for at least an hour from now on. And I may try 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and see what that does with the grind. And see if I can make it finer, finer, finer. I'm not too worried about breaking up the gold that's in the chips, because those gold bond wires, they're very pliable, they're very ductile. They're not going to shatter like the silica dye material is. That stuff's going to shatter because it's very brittle. It's going to get into smaller and smaller pieces. But the wires, the bond wires, they're very ductile. I don't see them shattering. They may get flattened, but that's about it. So I don't think they're going to get smaller. But the silicon dye material, if I can make it smaller yet than what I'm getting now, that will help with separating the gold from it. Because, you know, I'm an old gold prospector. I spent a lot of time out on the streams and creeks panning and sluicing. And the old prospectors have a saying, separation without classification is impossible. I think that's a little, a little out there. I think it is possible, it's just difficult. But basically, if I can make the waste material as small or smaller than the stuff I'm trying to recover, it's easier to wash it away with gravity separation methods and concentrate the gold. So if I can make that silicon dye material smaller, it's going to be easier to wash it away. I'll concentrate the gold. It'll be easier to recover the gold. So we're going to try this and see if I get a better grind. Alrighty, so here's the new and improved, hopefully new and improved impact mill over here, ready to go. I got some incinerated IC chips down here. I'm going to put around half a liter, maybe a little more, in here. That actually seems like a lot. We'll see how it handles that. I'm not sure yet what the limit of how much this can handle at a time is. I guess we'll find out. So I'm going to put the lid on. Sorry for banging the tripod and reaching in front of the camera. Poor placement on my part. Fire the cameraman. Oh, that's me. So let me get this lidded up and we'll start it up. And I will run it for exactly an hour. And then we'll take a look and see what's going on inside. It's kind of rocky. There, that's better. Sitting on a flatter area now. Okay, so let me start it up And look at what time it is. 2:48 p.m. So we'll come back here at about 3:48 p.m. and see what it looks like. Okay, it's been an hour. Let's have a look inside. See what we got. I really should. I've got some thick plexiglass somewhere. I should cut a round piece out of that and put it on here so I can see what in the world's going on inside here. It'd be nice to have a window. Wow, look at that. Ooh, dusty. But yeah, that looks like a pretty fine powder. Let me get some gloves on. Okay, that looks like a pretty fine powder. Not that I want to get it on my hands though, so I'm gonna glove up here. But it looks like it handled that half a liter of incinerated IC chips I put in there without any trouble. Oh yeah, that is a fine powder. This is a really fine powder. There's some lumps in here. Ah, that's a metal heat sink right there. So, obviously some of those chips I put in there had heat sinks on them. Yeah, there's still some lumps. I can feel the lumps. Either half a liter might have been a little too much, or maybe I just haven't run it quite long enough. Maybe I will lid it up and run it for another hour and see to get rid of some of the lumps in there. See how that looks. It might be interesting to know, if I was to make a transparent lid, just how much those balls are bouncing around in there. I can only guess. And what are my guesses worth? Sometimes not much, so. But certainly it is pulverizing those IC chips into a nice fine powder. Well, I'm over in my workshop doing something else without any intervention from me. That's nice. So we'll just keep it going, see what 2 hours does. Okay, it's been 2 hours. Actually, I'm going to double check the time. Yes, actually it's been about 2 hours and 10 minutes. I got busy with something else. I wasn't watching the clock. So let's see what we got going on in here. Ooh, a whole lot of dust. There's still... Well, some of these lumps are chunks of metal. This really seems like a pretty fine grind. Yeah, that's metal. Yeah. Part of the lead frame for something. Oh yeah, I've seen that before. So that's metal. So a lot of the lumps in here are metal. I saw one lump that looked like maybe a piece of a ceramic chip. But wow, that is some really fine looking stuff in there. I suppose there's a lump of something. I can break it up with my fingers, so I would say it's probably just not fully busted up. Okay. There's a lot of dust in here. I'm thinking maybe half a liter of IC chips has turned into 1.5 liters of dust, maybe, and that's just clogging it up. Maybe not put so much in next time. It all seems sort of compacted down against the base, too. Alright. I guess really the only way I'm going to tell how fine this grind is to vacuum it out and filter it and see what we got. It's late in the day. I will probably do that tomorrow. Alright, it's the next day. I got some time. I'm going to vacuum this stuff out of here with my little shop vac. And what I think I will do is I will put another charge in it, maybe not quite so much, and run it for another 2 hours and then vacuum that out. And then I should have enough material to work with and get a good idea of just what kind of a grind I'm getting with this new and improved setup. Hopefully new and improved. Okay, that's pretty good. Several people have commented after the first video came out that I should probably have a dust collection system on my shop vac, and that's not a bad idea. I might work on something like that in the future if I keep grinding up chips this way, which I think I will, because it's pretty hands-off. You know, I don't have to do anything. Just put the chips in it and walk away. I can work on other stuff, so that's pretty nice. Okay, here's another charge of chips. Maybe not quite as much as last time. And we'll just lid it up and let it go for about 2 hours, just like last time. And see what we get. Okay, there we go. Lid's on good and tight. Start her up. Okay, it's been a little over 2 hours, so let me get this vacuumed out like I did before, and then I should have enough stuff in the vacuum that I can take a look at it, start sifting it out, see what kind of grind we got. I can always put oversized stuff back in here for another session. So let me see, let me get it vacuumed out, and then we'll see if it looks like the extra balls and extra time have improved things. Okay, here it is. Yeah, that stuff certainly increases in volume as you reduce the particle size in it. Okay, I need to get to sifting on this stuff and see what it looks like. Let's see, I went through a, last time I did this, in the previous video, I went through a fairly coarse mesh just to get most of the metal stuff out, and then I went the rest of it through a 30 mesh. And then the finest one I have is a 40. Maybe we'll see how much will go through a 40 this time. Alright, time to sift this stuff. I've got the powder here that I vacuumed out of the grinder. We'll go through the 20 per inch sieve first, just to get out the big stuff. And then we'll run it through progressively finer sieves and see just how fine a grind we got. So yeah, there's some lumps in here. A lot of metal. A lot of metal. And you have to bear with me, it's a bit of a windy day and I'm wearing a mask, so you may not be able to hear everything I say. This is the metallic stuff I got from the last run of the grinder, so I'm just going to add this to that. And I'm going to keep sieving until I get all this stuff through. And yeah, I think the volume of material has definitely increased because we did about a liter of incinerated IC chips, but I'll bet we've got a bit more than that in stuff here. So anyway, I'm just going to keep sieving until I get it all through this coarse screen. I'm still sifting through the coarse sieve here, and I got a few more loads to go, but I thought I'd stop and show you this. This is almost all metal in here, a couple pieces of ceramic ICs that somehow made it in, but it's almost all bits of metal of various types. This looks to be gold plated, this one here. I don't know if that's showing up. That one looks like it's got gold plating on it. Set that one aside. And there's another little one here that looks the same. So, this is why I don't automatically throw away this stuff. Actually, I'll put it in here because I'll bet there's more gold plated stuff in there. And some of that's probably even silver. I'll have to come up with an efficient way to get the gold and silver out of this though, rather than dissolving all this waste metal in nitric acid, because that's just too expensive and time consuming. So I'll have to give that some thought. Alright, let me get back to sifting. Okay, everything in the bucket's been sifted through the coarse screen. I can still see bits of metal in there. I think I'm going to try to go straight to my 40 mesh screen. Last time we processed it through the 30. I'm going to see what'll go through the 40 this time, just for funsies. If it clogs up and a lot of stuff won't go through, maybe I'll go back to the 30. But I'm hoping we got a finer grind this time, and a lot of stuff will go through. And a lot of stuff is going through. It's taking its time, but it's going through. Yeah, I got very fine powder coming through here. And what's staying in the screen is a lot of little wires. Yeah, a lot of little wires. I doubt that's showing up on the video, but there's a lot of little wires in there. And some larger bits of IC chip debris. I see some sparkly bits of silicon dye material in there, but it's mostly wires. I kind of doubt that's worth returning to the grinder to grind it up any finer. I think that's probably ground more than fine enough to liberate the bond wires, which should go through a 40 mesh screen without any trouble. Okay. It's pretty much the same story. Mostly little wires with a few shiny bits of silicon dye material that's not quite pulverized to this consistency. Alright, I think I shall process the rest of it through the 40 mesh screen, and that's just going to take a little while, so I'll be back when it's done. Okay, I lied. I'm going to talk at you while I'm doing this. What's my purpose for wanting a finer grind? Well, it's to separate the gold easier, okay? We're going to use gravity separation techniques that rely on the fact that the gold is going to be the heaviest thing in here. Okay, gold has a density of 19 times heavier than water. Nothing else in here is anywhere near that dense. I mean, there's going to be some copper, there's going to be some iron, there may be some silver, and there's going to be a lot of silicon. And none of them is anywhere near as dense as gold, okay? The gravity separation technique should work really well for capturing the gold and getting rid of everything else. But there's a gotcha. Suppose you've got your little gold bond wires in here that are 19 times as dense as water. Okay, they're by far the densest thing. They should sink in the water really easily, okay? But what if you've got a chunk of copper or a chunk of iron that's 19 times the size of the bond wire? It's still going to be pretty small. But now it's about as heavy as the bond wire. And it's not going to want to move. You know, it's going to want to sink down to the same place where the bond wires go. And it's going to make it hard to separate the gold from the junk. You know, or if you've got pieces of IC in here, silicon die material that are, you know, 10, 15, 20 times the size of the bond wire. Well, again, they're about as heavy as the bond wire now, even though they're a lot less dense. But they're about as heavy. They're not going to want to move when you do the gravity separation. And you're going to wind up with a whole lot of junk material mixed in with your gold. I want to have less junk material mixed in with the gold. It's going to make it easier to get the gold out. So, by getting a finer grind and making sure that everything will go through a 40 mesh screen, that's going to make it easier to get the gold out of this. Because there's not going to be stuff in here that's, you know, so much bigger and heavier than the gold bond wires that they won't be eliminated during the gravity separation process. And we will greatly concentrate the gold and make it easier to recover. So that's why I am so obsessed with getting a finer grind on my incinerated IC chips. Getting rid of this stuff, which is staying in this 40 mesh sieve. So if I run this stuff through the sluice, the kind of stuff that's staying in this 40 mesh sieve is the kind of stuff that's going to be staying in the sluice with the gold and making it hard to separate the gold out. So, something just hit the roof. It's very windy and stuff's falling out of the trees. But by getting rid of this stuff, it's going to make it a lot easier to separate the gold. Once this stuff gets into the sluice, or even if I just pan it, but I think I'll probably sluice it. Although this is a fairly small amount, especially after I do the initial gravity separation, there shouldn't be a lot of material left. This is only about 1 liter of IC chips after all, maybe a little more. Okay, so now I will turn the camera off and finish sieving this so you don't have to watch the whole thing and I'll quit yakking at you. Alright, I'm all done sifting and I'm pretty happy with that. Everything in this bucket went through the 40 mesh screen. And not a whole lot of stuff didn't go through it. A couple teaspoonfuls after we sifted out the heavy metallic bits with the coarser screen. Maybe just a couple of teaspoons full of this finer stuff, which looks like it's mostly fairly big sized wires, were caught on the 40 mesh screen. So almost everything went through. So that's good. Okay, so that's great. So next I need to apply my usual gravity separation technique on this, and we'll see how much material is left. I doubt there will be enough to get the sluice out. We'll see. I'll get set up for that. Here's the stuff. Little over 1 liter of IC chips to start with, reduced to this fine powder, sifted. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this good and wet so we can do a gravity separation. And this stuff's kind of hydrophobic. I'm going to add a little bit of jet dry to it to break the surface tension of the liquid. Oh, I should have got that on camera. That was amazing. A lot of floaty stuff stopped floating. Get it all mixed up so that there's no lumps of dry material in here. And I'm probably just going to let this sit for 10 or 15 minutes so it can all hydrate really nicely. I do the separation. Yeah, that got rid of most of the lumps. Let me, that's a leaf. Okay. Alright, stir it around good, make sure there's no more lumps. Gonna let this stuff sit here and hydrate. Then we'll do the separation on it. Okay, it's been a little while. It's had a chance to hydrate nicely. Pour this initial liquid off. Not a lot left in there. That's my goal, to reduce this stuff, so that's good. I got another leaf in it. Stuff's been sitting out here, and the leaves are falling out of the oak trees. Probably not letting that sit long enough before I pour it. So let me let it sit for a few seconds here. Let those bond wires, which are 19 times heavier than water, all settle to the bottom. And we'll pour it off. Gotta remember to be patient. But of course I'm pouring into a catch basin, so we'll process whatever winds up in it too. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of material left in here. I'm taking that as a good sign. We'll see if that's the case for sure. Yeah, not a lot of material there. I only did start with a little over a liter, but still, that is not a lot of material left in here. It definitely got hit a lot smaller. I think a lot of the silica dye material is staying in the water column because it's pretty small now, and I'm pouring it off. So that should make it easier to process the gold. A lot less other stuff there to deal with. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So what's the density of silicon? Like 2.5 or something? I'll have to look that up. I'm probably wrong, guessing off the top of my head. Density of gold's about 19. So, yeah, I'm thinking we're probably getting pretty good separation of the gold and the silicon right now. That water's starting to look pretty darn clear too. And that's about as far as I'm going to take it for now. Let's see what's in this one. Yeah, all that mud's in here now.
Only a little bit is going to stay in here. Stuff that's staying in the water column certainly doesn't look like gold. It's making dark gray clouds that sort of float around in the water. Gold sinks pretty quickly. And it's that dark gray stuff I want to get rid of. Even small gold sinks really quickly. See that even with this finer grind, it's going to be hard to get perfect separation, but not aiming for perfection, just better and easier processing. Okay, I think I'm going to wash what's left in here into this bucket. And I will take this stuff and we'll get it in a beaker and slosh it around and see if we can see the gold.
That's the grinder running in the background. Let me turn it off. The 3/4 inch ball bearings finally arrived, so I'm running another charge of material through it with about 50 of these added. I'm thinking that the different size bearings, 1 inch, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, it's going to fill in the gap between the big balls, so it's going to process the material finer and faster, just because there's no big spaces for the material to hide in there. It's going to get crunched up better. Here's our stuff. I would say there's less than 100 milliliters of powder in there. Not bad for reducing it down from a little over a liter of IC chips initially. Now I have swished this around, and I'll have to, hopefully you can see it. Let me get it over here. I don't know if that's going to show up or not. Let me try and get a good focus on it. But yeah, there's the gold right in there. So yeah, not bad for only a liter of not particularly great IC chips, just an average mix of chips as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, not too shabby. I would say the grinder is working much better. We've got, you know, a tremendous reduction in material here. So that's going to make it easier to get the gold out, just because I don't have to get the chemicals to fight their way through so much other stuff to get to the gold. So excellent. So I've got a few other projects I want to work on with the grinder. I need a better way of getting the dust out of it. My little bucket vac works okay, but I'm losing a lot of dust out of it. The filter is letting some stuff go by. My instincts tell me that there's probably not a lot of gold in that fine dust coming out of there, but just in case, I want to capture it. I'd also like to do some initial sorting with the vacuum system, so I'm going to try a cyclone separator in the future. So I've got to get it all hooked up. I'm going to put, let me zoom out a bit. I'm going to put new bag in my big shop vac, and I'll hook it up to cyclone separator, and we'll run a whole bunch of chips through the grinder down here and see what we get when I vacuum the results out. I'm hoping a lot of the big metal stuff will stay in the cyclone separator, and maybe the bond wires will end up in the finer dust in the bags. We'll see. I might have to still sift the stuff that winds up in the cyclone separator. Hard to say. But that's a project for another video. So right now I'm pretty happy with the way the grinder is working. Again, I can think of other improvements for it. Ideally, it would have like a metal base, a steel base for the balls to smash against rather than the plastic base it has now. That would probably give me a much better grind. But I'm kind of stuck with what I've got over here, you know? So, anyway, I hope you found this interesting, educational, inspirational, killed a little time, whatever. Give the video a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see future videos. And subscribe to my second channel, ElectroGeek64. Check that one out and subscribe too to help the channel grow. And press the little bell icon that YouTube makes you press on both channels to be notified when new videos are released. And thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.